Some time ago, while browsing through social media content, I came across a cute video. In it, there was a man with a mountain backdrop, if I remember correctly, and this man, whose name I regret not remembering but I didn't write it down, was sharing an apparently trivial reflection. Bread and cheese, this reflection, bread and cheese represent for him the most extraordinary meal in the world, as it is made by the best chef. And that is a true hunger, the kind that arises after a long walk in the mountains and after exertion, after effort. It might seem like a simplistic observation, yet reflecting on this, a truth emerges that touches the very essence of the human experience. Hunger can represent that state of necessity that drives us to move, to seek, to grow. And it is precisely from the recognition of our needs that arises authentic motivation. When we feel the lack of something, whether it be knowledge, achievement, or connection, we are driven to undertake action. In my professional experience, in fact, I have repeatedly observed how people who have had an excessively facilitated life with an abundance of resources and few challenges related to commitment, some of these individuals exhibited significant difficulties when they reached adulthood, struggling to find direction, to choose a course of study, a professional career, and sometimes even to manage genuine emotional relationships. But this is not something I made up. I didn't make it up. There was already the child psychiatrist Robert Coles, who, in a study from the 1950s published under the title The Privileged Ones, highlighted how many children raised in material abundance exhibit a kind of spiritual poverty, an inability to find meaning and purpose beyond consumption and accumulation. Now, I don't mean to rigidly suggest that privilege is always an obstacle, also because there are certainly individuals from very wealthy families who have generated further fortunes or accomplished great projects. However, as also highlighted by social psychologist Paul Piff in his studies on the behavior of different social classes, there is a correlation between material abundance and a certain atrophy. Here, if you manage to find the 2003 documentary Born Rich by Jamie Johnson, you will see how many heirs of great fortune, children of a life without significant obstacles, express a deep sense of emptiness and lack of purpose. So what happens? What happens is that behind wealth, fortunes with an enviable facade, there can be hidden an existential misfortune, while those who have experienced existential hunger, that is, the deep desire to improve one's condition, to overcome adversities, to build something where there was nothing before, often manages to develop a determination and a resilience, a term now often criticized, that become powerful tools for personal achievement. As Malcolm Gladwell writes in the book Outliers, the story of success is rarely the exclusive result of innate talent, but it emerges from the intersection between opportunity and thousands of hours of deliberate practice. A practice that requires motivation, perseverance, and a hunger for results. But also because, we cannot discover who we are by limiting ourselves to abstract reflections. It is not possible to understand one's essence by sitting on a chair, contemplating life on a theoretical level. It is through action, the labor. As the Latins used to say, it is through effort that we discover and simultaneously construct the forms of ourself. Action precedes, therefore, action precedes and shapes identity, not the other way around. And this happens largely, and believe me, I know, because a good part of my therapeutic work is all about that. It happens through managing the transformative value of difficulties. When we interpret difficulties as opportunities for growth, rather than as threats, our organism responds in a completely different way, activating mechanisms of resilience. Appreciate the fact that I didn't use the other term, and positive adaptation. And so, one can find joy in the simplest experiences, like the bread and cheese mentioned earlier, appreciating not only the final result, but very importantly, the entire process that led to it. So, what do we learn in the end? That perhaps wealth does not lie in abundance, but in the ability to transform effort into meaning. Well, the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl suggests that it is precisely in the search for meaning, through experience, even painful ones, that we find our deepest fulfillment. So, in short, ultimately, this bread and cheese at the top of the mountain reminds us that in the end, it's not so much what we achieve in life that defines us, but rather the journey we have undertaken to try to get there, transforming mere survival into the art of living. See you next time.